Good evening, everybody, and welcome to California Free Radio. Blasting live on my X feed at Netter Mike. Blasting live on at Tax Fighter 7 with Scott Piotr, Kurt Incognito. We're on LinkedIn for those of you that have jobs at Mike Netter. Blasting out to various groups on our Facebook groups, Rebuild California. And of course, our YouTube channel, Outraged. Every week, I'm accompanied by Scott and Kurt. Say hi, gentlemen, because I'm going to start us off tonight with a special announcement.
Hi, gentlemen.
Every week, we try to bring a quality guest, and we have an amazing guest tonight covering the news of the day. And I'll cover some of that in my opening rant here. But I want you to stop what you're doing right now. Hopefully, you're not driving. If you are, pull over. Next week, we have an incredible guest, Dinesh D'Souza. Yes, you heard correctly. The gentleman who makes incredible documentaries about what we do, conservatism, is going to be talking about his newest, he's going to be live on our show talking about his newest documentary. What I want you to do throughout my feed in the week and throughout Scott's feed and all the feeds, it spreads the word about this. It's going to be a very special California radio. But you know what, gentlemen? What's not special is some of the things happening in California right now and around the country. Are you guys ready for my opening rant before we bring the guest in?
Can't wait.
Everyone out there, California Free Radio exists because we are the media now. That's why I always tell you, go to Netter News, and Kurt, you do a fabulous job of reminding people of that. If you looked at Netter News that went out this morning, and you should subscribe, it's free. You all have that kind of money. You will see a lot of stories about corruption, things that we talk that just aren't even talked about in the mainstream or barely touched. One of the couple stories I want to touch on before we get to our guest tonight is this hyperbole in the press for those of you in California, which is most of you, where they're talking about Trump, our President Trump, doing an add-on or a modification to the White House with $250 million of other people's money. I have a lot of contacts, and some of my contacts today were watching and following CNN. Myself, I can't do it. I'm too old. The heart's not that strong. CNN has a reporter covering basically a construction project or a remodel at the White House so they can make fun of what's going on. But that $250 million not only is not our money, what's also being ignored in California is the $1 billion Taj Mahal, or we think it's $1 billion, that this is being rebuilt in the state capitol. And it's a complicated story and a way too bit complex to put here forward on the air tonight. But the reality is, behind these big sheets, behind the secret halls of the state Senate and state assembly, run by the supermajority, we're not quite sure what it cost, what's going in it, what was wrong with the old Capitol, but it's 4 times what it's costing to remodel the wing of the White House. And now they don't have to use NDAs, but before they did, so nobody's talking. And that's just the tip of the iceberg why one-party rule doesn't work in California. And since I'm expanding out to national news a little bit with Dinesh, let's expand to something else. For many of you, and we do have viewers that we know come from around the country, or many of you have relatives, friends, people that you know who say, we don't care what's going on in California, you should move. Here's something that is absolutely scary, frightening, and disgusting. In Ontario, California, just a couple days ago, a big rig truck driven by an illegal alien killed, I believe it was 3 people. A couple months before that, a big rig truck decided to make a U-turn driven by an illegal alien in Florida and killed, I believe, 6 people. These big rigs were driven by drivers that were licensed out of California illegally. Some of these licenses, and you can't make it up, literally have the name on them, no name given. Well, Leonard's having a stroke. No, they say no name given because apparently you can have that on a passport. These don't meet the federal standards. There's about 6 states that do that. California is the biggest violator. See the latest post I put out tonight. Issuing, and the Department of Transportation said you have to stop this or we're holding up funding. California said we're cognizant of it. We're going to temporarily suspend it. It's things like this that cost people's lives. That I can't give you more reasons than that to vote no on 50. 50 is simply a scam by Gavin Newsom to not only get money, but gain more power and rob seats from Congress. And I don't have to tell you, Californians, how's it working out for you. But for those of you that think you're simply going to move from this state, it's not going to work out for you either. You need to vote, and you need to vote no on 50. You need to get out there and participate in this process. Now, in addition to our big event next Thursday, Scott, Kurt, you know what a big event is coming up this weekend?
The World Series.
In addition to that, Kurt, the
are we going to have a no Queens March since we had a no Kings March?
Actually, one that can stop you from having no king, queen, open. For those of you that don't trust the Postal Service, and I get it, for those of you that have been waiting to cast your vote, vote! I was on the John Phillips show today on KABC, a quick plug, and we talked a little bit about this. We talked a lot about it. Unfortunately, in a lot of elections today, we spend a lot of attention to kind of the play-by-play now. It's almost like the football games which are on. Oh, we're down by 35. It's the third quarter. We're still in the first quarter of this election. And many of you who watch the show follow politics. Many of your friends who don't watch the show don't. And they simply see it and say, why should I bother to vote? Vote. Get out this weekend and vote. The person giving the narrative about how the election's going, the play-by-play announcer that most of you are getting is Paul Mitchell, who runs PDI. Paul Mitchell happens to be the same, ready for the beep, 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 expletive deleted, that drew the damn maps for the Democrats. No on 50. And if you think, oh, I'm not going to vote, I'm afraid to go out, one of the reasons you could be less afraid to go out is California United on passing a proposition, Proposition 36. And tonight's show, we're going to talk about Proposition 36 and how what the people passed by 70%, how again Gavin Newsom would rather spend the money, speaking of no kings, on crowning other people. Before we bring on our guests, Scott, Kirk, weigh in.
Mike, the issue you brought up about illegal aliens getting commercial driver's licenses, particularly those who can't speak English and read the signs, is a direct threat to the citizens of this country. And I would argue anyone injured or killed by such an illegal alien should sue Gavin Newsom and everyone involved in the DMV for giving those licenses or allowing it as accessories to those murders and accessories to those injuries. And if you want to stop the Democrats from cooperating with illegal aliens, start suing them as accessories. Hold them accountable. And the federal government should prosecute them, like Mayorkas, for letting all those illegal aliens in. Because as Harry Reid used to say, gentlemen, the process is the punishment.
Scott, weigh in on top of that.
Hey, I'm just reminding the listeners what we had last week. We talked about the updates to your bill in Edison. This is still getting my goat. Yeah, they're raising the price. But one of the reasons that they're raising the price is because all the fires, someone's got to pay for it. State of California was the insurance of last resort for those lucky enough to even have that as their insurance. But guess what? They're out of money. So guess where they're going to get more money? Us, the ratepayers. So we're having to pay for Newsom's negligence in not preparing for those fires, not getting rid of the fuel so that we had a horrendous fire, and then not having water to be able to fight the fires. So we're picking up his pieces, as is typical.
And I want to add to it too for everybody out there, and I rarely share a personal note. Yesterday happened to be I think, whatever the heck it is, 8th anniversary of my house being burned down in San Diego by the utility companies. You would think the state would have learned something from then, and they simply haven't.
But Mike,
Kurt.
you're assuming they care.
No,
They
we
don't.
know they don't care, but there's a point where not caring becomes intentional. But Kurt, as I always like to do, full disclosure, Kurt's a licensed attorney, and we're going to bring in another licensed attorney tonight. Dan Dow, welcome to California Free Radio.
Hey, Mike, Kurt, and Scott, it's great to be with you. Thank you.
It's a pleasure
Thanks
to
for
have
coming,
you.
Dan.
Why
welcome.
I do a little bit of technical stuff here, give our audience a little bit of background for those not familiar with you. You and I started communicating on X or Twitter about a year ago, and let's talk about who you are. We know you're the district attorney for San Luis Obispo, and if you're getting my newsletter, you would know his background because it was in it this morning. But if you happen not to have read it and missed this morning's edition because you have a job, Dan, tell us about yourself and what you're doing now and what you've done for the state.
Well, thank you, Mike. I've been a prosecutor in California for 20 years. I did a career change. I've served both in the Army on the active duty side. I'm still in the reserves, but I've been Army. I've been in the high-tech industry in the Silicon Valley, but now I've been a prosecutor for 20 years. And the elected district attorney for San Luis Obispo County for 11 years, elected first in 14, again in 18 and 2022. And the reason I'm a prosecutor is because I believe in justice and I believe in fairness, and that, that we abide by the rule of law, that we have integrity in the systems that our Constitution was founded on. And because I love to serve the people, it's consistent with my military service. Currently, I was just elected this last summer to become the president of our California District Attorneys Association.
I didn't realize that. That's right.
We've got 58 counties, and it's a wonderful organization. We work hard statewide, and thankfully, because of great results in the last election, we have a law and order DA, Nathan Hockman, in Los Angeles, in your county. He's a good friend of mine, a wonderful colleague to have at our table. And a brand new DA up in Alameda County that was appointed after Pam Price was, thank God, was recalled. And so her name is Jones Dixon. Ms. Jones Dixon is the new DA in Alameda County, and she's doing a great job. So we're bringing California back to law and order. We've made crime a crime again. And thankfully, as you and I started our friendship over a year ago, it was because of Prop 36. And that's truly a watershed moment in California's history where a fairly, moderate electorate statewide, moderate to liberal in terms of the majority, said, we've had enough. There's too much theft, too much drug crimes, rampant, drug addiction and homeless people that are defecating on our streets. We've had enough. We need to have accountability for people again, make it possible to give them a timeout. And so voters turned out, supported Prop 36, 70%. A lot of Democrat elected officials supported it. Scott Mahan, Mr. Mahan, the mayor of San Jose, supported it, Democrat. We had people in San Francisco and in Los Angeles coming together, in San Diego, big areas, saying, we've got to pass Prop 36. And it's been a very good start now that it happened, but we have not had the funding. And I know we're going to talk about that in a minute, but I'm a prosecutor because I believe in having safe communities. I think that the law should mean something. And when people disobey the law and violate the law, they should be held accountable. And what we've seen since 2011 with the quote reforms is a forgetting about the victims and trying to make things better for offenders. And the tide is shifting. I think the population, as I said, is coming back, and they're saying, no, we're tired of it. We don't want any more victimization. We want victims to have their rights. And let's get California back on a path towards justice and public safety like it always used to be.
And Dan, I want to cover a couple things here because generally politically, like in many mantras of life, people have short memories. Okay. And we're tying this together with Prop 50 a little bit because let's cover, first off, if I met you in an elevator, well, first off, I would be scared, Dan, if you met me in an elevator, but then you're a pretty hefty guy and you're a district attorney, so you're probably safe. And you had met me a year ago. Give me the 30-second pitch of what Prop 36 was, because many people know they voted for it, but they're like, what did we vote for?
Absolutely. Well, just real quick, starting in 2011, we had criminal justice reform passed by the legislature, Assembly Bill 109. It pulled all the violent felonies or the nonviolent felonies out of state prison, put them in county jails, and got them on our streets because we reduced felony theft and felony drug cases down to misdemeanors. That also happened. It was made worse with Prop 47. Then with Prop 57.
I want to stop you. I'm going to hold you for 1 second because I want to emphasize something that a lot of people don't talk about. I'd say I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'd be lying, Dan.
It's your show.
At least I'm up front. I know people put me on their show. They say, I'm sorry you invited you in. Prop 47 passed, and that became the poster child for letting criminals run rampant, etc. Prop 47 passed, so I believe it was 2013, 2014, right? 14. Because it passed. Because it had one of the lowest turnouts in California history. They always talk about it passed overwhelmingly. Well, if you have a crowd of 3 and 2 vote for something, hey, that's overwhelming, okay? And I think that's important to note. That's how we got into this mess. That fortunately,
Mike,
go ahead.
Mike, that's true. But remember, they also lied to us. I think Kamala Harris may have been the attorney general at the time. And remember, they called it the Safe Neighborhoods and Safe Schools Act, even though
Wait a minute. Hold the fort. Stop. Don't let the horses out. This sounds vaguely familiar. You mean there was a low turnout and our government lied to us? That isn't what they're doing with Prop 50, is it?
I think it's a redo. It's definitely it's a do-over.
That's kind of my point, that we get lied to a lot and that they need to get out and vote. And I'm going to repeat that theme a few times because Prop 36, people got out and voted because they'd had it with crime.
That's right. Absolutely. So that was Prop 47. A couple of years later, we passed Prop 57. So 57 was to let people out of prison early that were there for serious and violent and sex offenders only. And so the voters, having a short memory, as you pointed it out, not really knowing what it was they voted for before, they didn't realize there were no nonviolent offenders left in prison. And so as a result of 2011 AB 109, 2014 Prop 47, 2016 Prop 57, crime skyrocketed. More violent crimes, more mentally ill on the streets because drug addicts, people with co-occurring disorders, that means people with mental illness and drug addiction on the streets committing theft and person crimes, they started to go through the roof. And people that would have been in prison before for repeat theft offenses, repeat drug offenses, now we're on the streets and we couldn't even get them booked on a misdemeanor because it was a low level offense after this. So that was the backdrop for why after 8 years of that failed experiment, the California voters said, enough is enough. We don't like what we're seeing in San Francisco, in LA, in San Bernardino, in Riverside, in San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara. We need change. And so the voters passed it. And but it had two things. Here's Prop 30. To get to your question, Prop 36 was basically two things. We're going to go for repeat drug offenses and repeat theft offenses, because the prior legislation made them misdemeanors with no accountability. What we said with Prop 36 is we're going to still be kind and let your two first offenses be misdemeanors, but on your third, we can charge you with a felony. And when we charge you with that felony, either theft or drug, we can offer you treatment, drug treatment, if that's your problem. And if you take that drug treatment and you're successful, good, we win. And we've rehabilitated you, you've improved, and you can get that felony removed. But if you don't do the drug rehab, or if you try it and you're not successful, then we keep that felony on your record. And when you violate or pick up your next one, you can go to state prison. So we kind of compromised. We said, we don't know if California voters will go a complete repeal of Prop 47, for instance, but let's do this. It's reasonable to say if you have two prior convictions and it hasn't worked for you yet, on your third, you ought to increase the sanction, increase the punishment, increase the treatment plan. And already in 10 months in San Luis Obispo County, we have a population of about 290,000. We've had over 350 felony cases that we've been able to file here for theft and drug offenses and get people held accountable. More of them now are serving much longer sentences. So our streets are cleaner. Our recidivism is going down because they're not capable of committing new crimes while they're being incarcerated. And so we're able to have some relief for the businesses, for our neighborhoods where the drug addicts were on the street, starting to clean it up. It's not perfect, but we've made great progress. But what's missing is that it was all contingent on the legislature funding it, or our local governments coming up with ways to say they could use existing resources. So in our county, we're a mid-sized county. We're not tiny, we're not big. And we have collectively said, we're going to do everything we can, even though the governor's not willing to fund us. We're going to have our health agency, our probation department, our sheriff's office, and the DA's office and the court and the public defender work together to use what other treatment programs we have to make this work. And we've had significant improvement in our community, but the rest of the state just doesn't have the resources in the larger counties to be able to put into this treatment. So we need the governor and the legislature to listen to those 70% of California voters and put their money where their mouth is, instead of spending it on purely partisan politics, trying to go after Donald Trump, instead of worrying about protecting our community, making our community safer. And and by the way, I know you've said $300 million for this Prop 50 election. I believe it's actually $500 million before it's
Oh
ever.
no, it'll easily. But let's take a step back for everybody, because you got to remember, Dan, you're a licensed attorney and I'm a simple guy. So let me make this simple for a lot of people out there. For those of you out there, for people like me, where I started the recall 5 years ago, I hadn't been much involved in politics, simply got ticked off. Many people take a look out their window and go, what the hell happened? Right? It's really not my job. Good news for you, Dan, that to prosecute criminals, to do law enforcement, to figure out why there's homeless on the street. And it takes a while. It took a while after the 2000 Prop 47 for this stuff to build up. It's not like they passed something and instantaneously, although New York may be different this election, instantaneously the criminals come running out on the street, right? So it takes a while, and it takes a while to take a step back. And that is kind of one of the points I want to make about Prop 50, is whether Prop 50 win, lose, or draw, are Democrats running our government, and I want to be clear, not even the Democrats, the extreme greedy left-wing people running the Democratic Party, it takes a while for these things to see the effect of them, and for Gascon to get elected in LA, for it to build up, and it takes a while to pull back on them. And funding, when we talk about defund the police, which For the record, I'm against. Hey, I think it's the stupidest idea I've ever heard, right? But let's put that down for a second. We have to fund programs that we fund before. Now, because I'm active on X, let me take a step back. And everyone knows right now we're going to have a school choice CEO Act petition coming out. This is commercial time, Dan. We have the voter ID one. I'm working with Carl DeMaio on. We have the Save Prop 13. I'm working with Howard Jarvis on. Those are petitions we need to get on the ballot. I mean, petitions we need signed to get them on the ballot.
Right.
But when these petition initiatives go on the ballot, what the left uses against it is not, well, don't worry about how much it's going to cost to rebuild your house when a mentally derelict burns it down. They're like, hey, look how much it's going to cost to fund these initiatives. You actually did something I think was pretty smart when this went on the ballot, in that you didn't have a fiscal price assigned to it. So it became the option of Gavin Newsom to fund this or not. Is that correct, or am I off base here?
Well, that's basically the net effect of it. Yes. I mean, there was not a known direct cost, and that was not put in it. And we didn't put in there a funding stream because, it's a bit presumptuous for the voters to say where the pot of money should come from. It's what's important for the voters to do is say what's a priority, right? And our elected representatives in our state Senate and our state assembly should say, hey, if the people of my state, 70% of them want drug treatment and rehab for repeat criminal offenders in my community, then that's telling those elected representatives what our priorities, where we want them to put their money. And so, yes, we didn't have any particular price tag put in Prop 36. It was a priority initiative to say, crime is run amok. We've got to hold people accountable. Here's the plan for doing it. Legislature, you now fund it. And so far, they've refused to do it.
It's pretty arrogant of the governor to basically say we decide we're not going to fund. I mean, he's frankly just ignored it.
Well, he's actively, he actively campaigned against it. He tried to insult the DAs. I mean, he does actively. He's antagonistic towards district attorneys and sheriffs on this issue. And I don't know why he couldn't just, like he did with the homeless issue, say, you know what? Yeah, we do have a problem. And I'm going to work to back this because I see that it's a problem that needs to be corrected. I mean, I can't understand, other than his arrogance of not wanting to admit that his prior idea of decriminalizing everything didn't work. If he truly wanted to become president, he should have embraced Prop 36. But really what he did was he showed us what he's made of. He showed us his core, and we know who he is. And he's doing exactly now what is consistent with who he is.
Well, I mean, you're right. It's consistent with who he is. He's Prop 36. We want him to incarcerate and keep the criminals locked up for their crimes, and instead he's closing prisons. It's almost as bad as reservoirs, right? Where he's supposed to build more water storage, and instead he's destroying dams and getting rid of water storage. It's like he wants to do everything the opposite of what the voters want.
Boom. And that's where I want to jump in. And Dan Dow, as my guest on the show, do not call Hochman after this next rant and have me committed, okay? At least let me get to the end of the show. Here's what really ticks me off. And this is actually why I'm sitting in front of you tonight. Let's take a step back. The people of California voted twice to continue with the death penalty. Right, left, middle, great idea. Gavin Newsom went in office and said, I don't agree with it, and I don't give a damn what you voted for. I'm dismantling the equipment. The people of California voted down rent control. Gavin tries to institute that, and the list goes on and on. Now, here's the reality that really just ticks the hell out of me, is that we voted in Prop 36. It's not your opinion, you Yahoo, you posterior expletive deleted beep, beep, beep. We voted it in, okay? It's your job to do what we voted in. And it wasn't even close. It wasn't like, well, it's going to get down to Netter's vote. Let's open the envelope. We voted at 70-30 to vote in to put Prop 36 in, and Gavin Newsom went against it. Hold on before you answer, Dan, because that's exactly what he's doing with Prop 50. We voted in twice to have an independent redistricting commission, and Gavin decided he doesn't like it. And correct me if I'm wrong, but gently please, Dan, that he's taking for what we voted in, simply in my eyes, to implement Prop 36, and he's spending about the same amount of money, probably twice as much, on a special election to strike down what we voted in. Did I miss something there?
Oh, you are absolutely spot on, Mike, and that's why 30 of our elected district attorneys, 29 of my colleagues, joined me in sending a letter to the communities that we are committed to upholding trust through transparency, fairness, and the rule of law. And Prop 50 directly is trying to dismantle voter-approved Citizens Redistricting Commission, the nonpartisan redistricting commission, and reinstate partisan gerrymandering. I mean, it's that simple. What the voters rejected time and time again was partisan gerrymandering. And it's not perfect with our independent commission, because as it is, California in the last presidential election, President Trump won about 38 to 40% of the electorate, and Republicans only have 17% of the congressional representation. So, Democrats talk a lot about proportionality, and when it comes to crime statistics, they don't like when people of color or of a certain socioeconomic group are disproportionately convicted and sentenced to prison. But I tell you what, how about the disproportionality of our congressional delegation? They don't want to make it fair. They don't want it to be they want it to be more unfair than it is today. They want it to go from 17% roughly Republican representation, which is less than half of our proportional part of the census, and they want to cut it in half down to around 8%. And so I think it's absurd. It's partisan politics. The governor and all of the folks that are pushing it, they're being very transparent that this is a partisan attempt to go after Donald Trump and fight in Washington instead of prioritizing what California voters need and have asked for here to protect our communities against criminals.
Dan, let me ask you an off-the-record question, because we only have about 20,000 people listening. Do you think Gavin Newsom has ever read the Constitution?
I'm going to take that as a rhetorical question. I know he doesn't seem to value it the way that you and I do. And we are, we've got a wonderful history in this country. We've got a great founding, group of individuals that really were insightful when they wrote our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution, gave us our Bill of Rights. And by the way, we have separation of powers. Governor Newsom is talking about how the president is acting like a king, and yet, Governor Newsom, I would argue, actually has a kingdom here in California because he's ruling by fiat. He's issuing orders and declaring things, and he shut us down and kept people out of churches and all of that while he was governor during the pandemic. If there's a king anywhere in this country, there's nobody acting like one more than our governor, Gavin Newsom.
Let me be clear on something and kind of pull us back in here before we lose our time. Because I got a lot of questions for you. Because again, I'm in a lot of feeds. Everybody knows I'm in all over social media. I communicate with a mass amount of people every day. And many people simply, people are turning Republican. And by the way, if you turn Republican, Scott, Kurt, Dan, how much good does it be to turn Republican if you don't
vote?
Okay, so let me be clear. It's kind of like, I'm an alcoholic. I've agreed to join Alcoholics Anonymous. That's step one. Next step, quit drinking. Okay, so great. Thank you for coming to the Republican side. Now you have to vote. Consider that a big step in your political rehab. Maybe we should do that. What do you think? The 12 steps of political rehab? Maybe we're on to something here. But anyway, what I want to get to is that so much argument is about, well, there's a shutdown in government. There's a shutdown. Yes, we have the majority on the Republican side, but there's a balance of power. We don't have a balance of power in California. the Democrats have a super majority in both houses with a Democratic governor and do what the hell they want. And when they run into a roadblock, they simply decide to make something up and put something on the ballot. One party rule doesn't end well. And if you look around the streets of California, that's true. Dan, how many counties are there in California? Not a trick question.
58.
And how many district attorneys have against? Thank you. Scott's all anxious. I know that one. Okay.
I know.
Not behind him. Okay. And how many district attorneys have decided against endorsed against Prop 50?
We've got 30 that have come out on record against it. And I've talked to a number of the others that are personally against it, but just at this point, it's not an issue that they necessarily wanted to go public with us on. But, we've got Summer Steffen from San Diego, Nathan Hockman from Los Angeles County, Mike Hestron from Riverside, Jason Anderson, San Bernardino. We've got Jeff Reisig from Yolo County. We've got, a lot of people, myself. We've got a lot from all over, 30 of the 58 counties. So I hope that that's a good representative that we will get at least over 50% in November, of the voters that vote no on Prop.
Well, it sounds like the 30 that you have represent clearly a majority of the state,
Yes.
population-wise.
We do.
Then, guys, second, you got to keep it simple for me. And I apologize for cutting you off, but I said this on the Phillips show today. Part of the problem is, and hold on, I want everybody out there to remember this, because I know you're arguing with friends. Dan is obviously a very bright guy. Kurt's an attorney. Scott's an architect. I'm just a dumb posterior. I'll leave it at that, right? And the problem becomes that where the left or Gavin Newsom has shaped a very simple message. We're against Trump. We're against Trump. We're against Trump. Vote. And when a poll came out this morning or a couple of days ago that they asked people, why are you voting yes on 50? They said, oh, just screw Trump. Do you know why you're screwing Trump? No, not really, but that's what I was told. So very simply, vote no on 50. It won't end well for you. My point of asking the question was, what did you say, 32, Dan? 32?
30.
30 district attorneys, including the biggest
58
counties, out of 58 think it's a bad idea. Take it at that. Okay?
That's right.
All right? Really simple. Okay? The people that are in government that you trust think it's a bad idea. What I don't understand, and again, I'm not the brightest bulb in the shed or whatever. I can't remember the right term. That's how dumb I am. This is a simple campaign. No on 50. Okay.
Hey, who is that, by the way? Who is that masked man?
It's pretty funny, actually.
Yeah, Gavin Newsom.
The caricature isn't very far-fetched.
No, it isn't. And again, what happens is 50 is going to strike down at you in a couple of years. Dan, this is all interwoven, in my opinion, again, because he's spending, and I'd like to also say that during the recall, the people of California voted, we got 2 million signatures, and Gavin said, oh, I can't believe you're spending $250 million on a special election. What a horrible idea. Right. Now he's like, I can't wait to spend $250 on a special election. What a great idea. It's amazing how things change. But that $250 million is coming away from raises for firefighters, by the way, which he refused to sign because it would have cost something enough, $250 million. So when your house is burning down, hey. But Dan, also the implementation of what we voted in. Again, right. I realize it's more complex than that, but my simple mind, is it really?
No, it's not more complex than that at all. I mean, the voters said we need this for our public safety. We want prosecutors and judges to have tools to keep repeat offenders off the streets, and that means the treatment that comes with Proposition 36, and that would cost less than what they're spending on this special election that nobody needed. And by the way, we already had a constitutional issue, as you said, a constitutional requirement that we only do the redistricting via this independent citizens redistricting commission. So
That we
he doesn't-
voted in.
right, and he
We
doesn't
voted it in.
he doesn't respect the will of the voters back then. And he's using, Trump derangement syndrome right now as the motivation for getting people to change that. And by the way, they say it's going to be temporary and, it's only through this next election. Have you ever seen the government ever do something like, say, a tax and say it's temporary and not extend it and not keep doing it? I don't think I've ever seen that.
And we also had a constitutional element that said you can't have redistricting except once every 10 years.
Right, after the census has been done. But because that constitutional provision was put in by the will of the voters, it is true that the voters can now change that on their own. So they've chosen a vehicle that's a lawful way to change the Constitution, but it was twice, as you pointed out. It was in both 2008 and 2010 that Californians said, we don't want partisan gerrymandering. We want an independent redistricting commission. And why? Because we don't want a party to be able to just do this and force, make it unfair. I mean, let's just make it fair. Let's use the Democrats' mantra for proportionality and say, we're going to make it proportional. So then give Republicans twice what we currently have in terms of the numbers of congressional representation, because that's what would be proportional in California. But Gavin Newsom doesn't want that. He wants to run the whole table, the craps table, and take all the money for the Democratic Party, all the votes, all the representation, so that people in Lake County, people in El Dorado County, people up in Shasta, people in Butte County don't have any representation in Washington anymore, because they're going to make the people in Marin and Sacramento and San Jose represent those people, because they think that is a way to get at Donald Trump. And what they're doing is they're screwing the rural California voters by eliminating their true representatives that are elected there now, that are representing those districts in accordance with the voters in that community.
I know you could see the map behind me. You could see this one up here and way in the northeast part of the state, and it goes all the way down. I'm trying to do this backwards, all the way down to the Bay Area, all in one district. Like, tell me that those rural counties are going to be represented.
They will not.
Well, Dan, I've got a question for you. There's going to be lawsuits about this if it passes.
Well, yeah, talk
What
about
is
the
your
Mark Moyser
opinion?
one.
What is your opinion about how effective those lawsuits will be to knock it out?
Oh, it's hard to venture an opinion on that. My guess is it will be tied up for a long time, and the election cycle will have already been had. Because look at this, we're doing this in November. The primary election is in June of 26, so we've only got a few months. People have to start declaring their candidacies.
In March, they have to file. Yeah,
in March,
December.
It's coming up.
For
Very
Congress,
quick.
it's actually December, gentlemen.
Wow.
They may have to delay the election if it's closer. There's a legal challenge. I reported on this earlier. Not to one up you three that are smarter than me, but actually December 6th to the 20th is actually where you declare. And the problem is, some of these people I'm working with running for Congress, they're not even sure what area they're declaring for. You see what I mean?
Is December the declaration date, though, for a June primary, or is that when it's a presidential year and it's a March primary? So
yeah, that's what I remember.
Actually, look at the calendar. It's very weird because, again, you got to remember, California bounces all over the place. So it's the period where you start to gather signatures. Got it? It's actually in December where you can start to gather them. I don't want to get too deep into this. So the question becomes, you have to gather them from your congressional area district, right? You can look it up, Dan, but I'm pretty sure I know this. But you have to gather signatures from your area to turn it in for March, because you've got like a 90-day period. You pull papers, as we call it, in December. Got it? But how are you going to pull papers when you don't know where to get signatures for, because you don't know what your area is?
That's
you see
right.
what I'm saying?
And
You wouldn't know
Okay,
where.
so the period, I just looked it up. In December 19th, that's when you can start signatures in lieu. And
Correct.
start collecting signatures.
Correct. So how do you know what signatures you get?
But the filing period is not until March 7th through 11th. And and so, yeah, you don't have to turn those papers in until March.
No, but my point is for candidates wanting to run under the American system who are gathering signatures in lieu,
Yeah, they don't
how
know.
are they going to know what area they're gathering them from
That's
if
true.
they don't know what
That's
their
true.
district is?
You think we'll find? You think we'll find a federal judge with the balls to basically enjoin this thing until it's decided in the courts? So, in other words, they won't be able to hold the 2026 elections with the districts as drawn by Prop 50. They have to wait one cycle
This is Dan. I'm going to
while
let
the
you answer
constitutional
this.
issues get resolved.
I'm going to put Dan on the spot here because the election isn't even certified, I believe, until probably December 8th. So that's kind of nip and tuck there. With
Right.
what date do you start to poll signatures in lieu of?
19th.
December 19th.
You get where I'm going with this, right?
Right. And
Yeah, but the question is while these constitutional issues, which are legitimate, are being contested, do they allow Prop 50 to proceed and then fix it in the 2028 election if it's found to be unconstitutional? Or is there significant enough harm and chances are that we're going to win that they'll actually, stop it?
It's actually in the hands of everybody watching the show.
yeah,
I've talked to attorneys.
Because they have to vote. Yes. No, I got
vote.
that.
Because if we vote and it's close, the longer they take, I mean, if it's 80-20 or something, not in favor of us, it becomes whatever. Here's the
No,
thing.
but the best thing to do, right, is just to have it go down in flames.
make
And
it
it goes down in
too big to rig, guys. Too big to rig.
It's got to be too big to rig. And by the way, an interesting point I want to comment on, Dan. I know we're keeping you.
I'm
on
sorry,
air.
the dead people have already been voting. I don't know what you're talking about.
Mortally challenged is what Newsom calls them. They're not dead; they're mortally challenged.
Yes,
But I've often wondered, and forget even the part about the 6 years, if it's, I never really heard a good reason, and Dan, maybe you could tell me, why we need, put the political rhetoric aside. I got two attorneys on the show.
What fun is that? Yeah, go ahead.
Hold on. Why we would need a temporary, why do you need anything temporary? I mean, why do we have to put in, it's temporary? That's a put the political rhetoric aside why just temporary? Because we happen to be in a bad mood, so we're asking you to put a temporary patch on the state. We know that it will probably go on forever, but why did they even do it as temporary?
Well, it's duplicitous, and they're trying to cover up their shame. They know that they're going against the will of the voters, and they know that there's an argument that we have the moral high ground to say no. The voters have already said twice we want an independent redistricting commission. So they're saying, well, we're just going to do this one time to get back at Trump now, and then we'll stop and it'll be over.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, they're just doing it to try to justify a wrong. They're basically saying two wrongs make a right. They're saying, we don't like what Texas is doing, which, by the way, is a completely different issue. They don't have a constitutional provision like we
Mark
do.
Moiser on last week. Yep.
And so that's a completely different issue. And by the way, we don't represent Texas. We represent California. Our voters should be worried about what happens here. And we should be more worried about our public safety and funding Prop 36 instead of this partisan crap that literally is going to take away representation from people in California who today have representation, although it's a minority, and it should be even a stronger showing in California for Republicans. It's all politics, and they're just trying to mask what they're doing by saying it's not so bad. We'll just make it temporary.
Well, Dan Dow, I want to thank you. I deal with district attorneys all up and down the state. Let me be clear, not as a defendant. And
although we wonder about that.
Yeah, you should. In many counties, and I want to tell everybody out there, go to dandow.com, follow Dan Dow both on LinkedIn, follow him on X at Dan Dow. Because Dan, I got to tell you, there aren't many DAs, and there are a lot of DAs, but not many of them like you, that are willing to push themselves forward, both what you've done with Prop 36 and your narratives and tweets that I follow all the time. I know you heard me open the show about the truckers, etc. I don't know if you want to layer on that before we let go, but you stand for all of California and San Luis Obispo, and I want to thank you. Give us a closing statement, Dan.
Well, thank you, Mike. By the way, your guest next week, he and I have a lot in common. We're DD. Dinesh D'Souza, Dan Dow.
There you go.
We're like best buds. I love that guy. Actually, he's very smart.
Double D, is that it?
Double D. But thank you for that. And I will just say that today I was particularly perturbed at the governor and our majority in Sacramento, who have allowed California to issue driver's licenses to illegal aliens. I was against it a decade ago or more when they came out with that idea. And now, as it has turned out, that in some San Bernardino County in Ontario, this illegal alien, 21 years old, who failed his driver's license exam 10 times trying to get it, finally passed it, and they gave him a commercial driver's license, and he's here illegally. He has no right to work in the United States. They give him a commercial driver's license, and guess what? He's impaired on drugs and alcohol, and he runs into 3 or 4 vehicles in a row on a crowded freeway, killing 3 people. And he never should have had a driver's license for regular driving permission, certainly not a commercial driver's license. Our highways have to be protected. How California can somehow think that they're morally superior to other places because we're being so kind to illegal aliens in giving them licenses it's horrible. And this is just one more example of why Californians are waking up. We're saying we don't want the kind of chaos that happens with this kind of ridiculous policy. We need to return to law and order. A polite society, a well-armed society is a polite society. We want to encourage law and order. And that's the only way we're going to get control of our neighborhoods again. That's the only way we're going to get safe streets. The president sent the National Guard into Washington, D.C. and cleaned it up in a short amount of time. He's tried to do it in Portland. He did it in Los Angeles earlier this year. And look, I don't think that's the answer. The answer is California saying, no, we're going to once again hold people accountable. And if they break the law, we're going to give them the appropriate punishment and a timeout. This experiment with being soft on crime has not worked ever throughout history. It's not working now, and we need to return to that. And so I appreciate the forum, the opportunity to be with you and talk to your listeners. And I'll just tell you that I'm not going to quit working hard for the people of California to make it safe. I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it because I love what I do. Next Tuesday, I'm going to be going into court on a sentencing for one of the most horrible cases I've ever been on. It's a child pornography case. You wouldn't believe child pornography involving infants and toddlers and sadistic behavior towards these people. I mean, there are people living in every community, probably in California, that are purveyors of that filth. No redeeming quality whatsoever. I'm hopeful that the judge will sentence this guy I'm asking for 13 years in state prison. The maximum for this case is 18 years. But I understand that, we would be lucky to get anywhere near what I'm asking for. But it's not fun work, but it's important and it's rewarding. And I'm doing it for the people of our community in the state of California. And I'll never apologize for doing it. And I'm proud of the people up and down the state of California that care like I do about victims of crime, that we want our communities to be safe because we live here. We're Californians, and it's a noble profession, and we're proud of the law enforcement partners that we have. And I'm glad that there's this swing back. The masses of people are saying, hey, we're not afraid to say that we stand for law and order. We're not going to be, bullied into saying that we want to be kind to criminals. We're going to stand up for what's right. And I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts with all of you on this forum on X.
We appreciate
Dan, I got
having
a quick question.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Do you think that a prosecutor could prosecute state officials, whether the DMV all the way up to Newsom, as accessories to the crime if they're going to give an illegal alien a commercial driver's license? It would seem that you could make an argument that they're accessories to all those crimes.
It would be very novel, and I'm willing to look at all options. The challenge is that these laws are on the books because our officials have, our elected representatives have put them on there. Just like Senate Bill 54, the Sanctuary so-called California Values Act, which allows, which purports to overrule federal law. So could we, in theory, there may be ways of doing it, but there's a lot of defenses that, hey, they didn't, these people at the DMV didn't make the law. They're enforcing the law that these legislators put into effect, and that the governor signed into law. So where I've been more interested in focusing on is filing a civil case against the Attorney General for false advertising when they mislabel and misdescribe an initiative on the ballot. Because I could sue civilly as a district attorney, Kraft Macaroni, if they falsely advertise their product, or any other business in California. But when it comes to the fundamental right to vote and you should have truth in elections, when they can lie in their official description of an initiative, and they control that in the Attorney General's office, I think that's an area that myself and some other DAs are going to be looking at to see if there's any way we can sue them to ensure that voters are not lied to on these initiatives anymore.
Dan, I want to throw one more thing at you. Sorry, brother, but I think you bring up something else that I think ought to be looked into. And I'm going to say this on the air because, as you know, I'm a very shy person, Dan, but I'm getting over it.
You are.
The DOJ Weekly that Rob Bonta puts out, which is done on government funds, which he's entitled to as an elected official, but it's really almost turning into what it's not supposed to be, a campaign newsletter.
Mike, it's not turning into that. It has been it from day
I'm
one.
trying to be quasi-nice
No.
so I don't get black vans in the front of the house are hoping are cable vans.
Well,
You ought to be sued for that. That's false advertising and misusing of government funds.
Well, yeah,
Rob
misuse of public.
Bonta, I'm sorry, go ahead.
He's a pretend AG, and he's only been a politician carrying Newsom's water from the get-go.
Well, and he's not a prosecutor. He gives lip service here and there, but he's more concerned about fighting Donald Trump than he is about fighting gangs and traffickers and drug dealers and fentanyl dealers here in California. If I was the Attorney General or somebody like me that was law and order, we would stop fighting Washington and we would fight crime in California. That's what we need in our Attorney General. This Attorney General is a politician fighting partisan politics, and he's not going after crime, and he needs to be held accountable, and he needs to be booted out of office. And I hope that we're going to get a candidate that will have a chance to stand up to him and take him on so that he doesn't go back to Sacramento to just keep fighting Washington. Come on, we're the United States of America.
Are you throwing your hat in the ring?
I am not, but I tell you what, I certainly am hopeful that someone would pick that up and would get the kind of support. I mean, I personally love Sheriff Chad Bianco. There's a lot of other candidates, too many in the race, as you were saying earlier off the show, Mike. On the Republican side, there's too many. I personally like Sheriff Chad Bianco
governor, right?
We need somebody that's going to make public safety back to be the number one priority of the state government. And Sheriff Chad Bianco knows how to do it, and I think he would do an excellent job.
Is he an attorney?
He's not. He's the sheriff of Riverside County. And
right. So he's not eligible to be an AG, right?
No, I'm talking about him for governor. And,
okay.
And I'm saying I'm supporting him for governor because I think we need the public safety focus from the governor's office. And then we need to have paired with him a strong attorney general who's a law and order attorney general that comes in and helps implement that plan that whoever the governor is. And like I said, I'm supporting Chad Bianco because of his credentials and his qualifications running a $1 billion sheriff's department in Riverside County. Traditional ideas would say that any Republican's going to have a huge challenge at winning, but we need somebody that's bold, somebody that's not afraid to speak truth and to make the right priorities. And that's why I supported Chad Bianco. And I'm just hopeful that he'll get an AG candidate.
And I think critically important that we get a Republican in office. I happen to support the other guy, but neither here nor there. I'm being upfront about it. Our job is to get somebody elected. But before I let you go, I want to remind somebody about the gubernatorial primary. Only 7 million people out of 22 million voters bothered to even cast a vote in the gubernatorial.
Yeah.
We have to make sure that we all get out there and vote on 50 and vote no.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting how much time we spend talking about some of these races. It's kind of like, well, I wonder what we're going to do 2 weeks from now. There's a ball game going on now, you throwing the ball at your face. Think about catching the one that's in front of you. Dan Dow, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate you. Appreciate the work you do. Go to dandow.com. Follow him at Dan Dow on X. And remember, go to my feed and I'll make sure you know how to find Dan. Dan knows how to find me. He's a DA. Dan, thank you very much. We appreciate
Dan, thank you.
all the work that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you all. And I hope you're going to do okay in recovery to my fellow lawyer that's on here. You're a recovering lawyer, or are you still practicing?
Mostly do tech and real estate financing. So I
All right.
practice law for entities that I own part of mostly.
Excellent. Well, it's a great profession. Got all the best to you.
Well, it's a great general education in today's society, sadly.
True.
Dan, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank
Dan,
you.
we
Take care.
appreciate you. Thank you. Take care, my
care.
friend. We'll see you on the road soon. So,
Whoa.
gentlemen, I'm going to bail out. Oh, you're going to show. Whoa, there you go. Scott, why don't you show those couple videos we have about Prop 50? Then I would, as you know, I've got something brewing in the background here that I'd like to take care of. But we have a couple videos we'd like you to watch tonight, especially the ad put up, because what there's been much talk about, and I talked about this on the John Phillips show today, people aren't seeing commercials that we're putting up, et cetera, et cetera. Everyone out there, what we're showing you, which has been up on my feed, Scott's feed, and other feeds, you can share this. There are commercials on TV on No on 50, but you don't see a lot of them. So let's take a look at one of them now. And that's not one. Right?
You're so picky about these things. Okay, hold on.
Gavin Newsom and the Democrats keep saying that we have to pass Proposition 50 in order to save democracy. Please tell me how we are saving democracy by destroying democracy. First off, the United States of America is a constitutional republic. And by the way, the California flag, last time I looked at it, it says that we are a republic. Now, in a constitutional republic, we, the people, get to vote for our officials. But there is a constitutional limitation that prevents the will of the majority, a mobocracy, from depriving the minority of their votes. And that is exactly what Gavin Newsom is doing with Prop 50. He has violated the California Constitution not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, but 5 different times. Gavin Newsom has violated the California Constitution in order to even bring to the voters Proposition 50.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. It's a long one, but the fact that it violates the Constitution
Maya
5
one,
times.
man. We'll let you and Kirk get to some of the stories of the day, and I'm going to bow out a little bit here. But show the Carl DeMaio one real quick. It's about 2 minutes, if you could.
Let's see here.
The point of showing you these tonight, people like Dan Dow, like myself, like Scott, like Kurt, we have a pretty big impact by spreading the word ourselves. And those of you who watch me and see the show know the numbers I can rattle off. But take a look at this.
If Texas is doing it too.
As a teacher, I often have to explain to kids why loans don't make it right. Prop 50 is a perfect example. Politicians are using your hatred of Trump to get what they want. Prop 50 takes power away from you by destroying the independent redistricting process. And Prop 50 wastes $300 million, money that should go to schools. Rigging elections is wrong. Two wrongs don't make a right. Vote no on Prop 50.
We bought an abandoned homestead.
I like
Yeah.
that ad because it's simple. No matter what they're pitching, get over it. Guys, hit us with a couple stories, and I'm going to go ahead and do my sign-off thing here, and then you two can have the last 5 minutes or so, much to your delight.
All right, Mike. Before you run off, what's the status of Prop 50? How is the votes coming in relative to registration?
Well, let me put it to you this way. I get really tired of the ball game being called as it's going along. The reality is the polls open this weekend. Get your butt out there and vote. But I want to stress something again I said today on KABC. That's a great question. You're holding me in here, Kurt. Right now, the polls open this weekend. Yes, indeed, it looks like more Democrats than Republicans have voted, but it was only until recently that we started watching elections on a play-by-play basis. Cole Patterson, who's the former data analyst for the Republican Party, has a great report and a good narrative. Most people are following whose narrative they're following, Kurt? Paul Mitchell from PDI. Do you know who Paul Mitchell from PDI is?
No.
He's the guy that drew the maps. And he is actually the liberal organization publishing these statistics, putting this spin on them. Republicans, I get it. We need to get out and vote. For everyone out there, and you know who you are in Los Angeles and other counties, you don't need to put out a play-by-play every day. We're behind by this, that, and the other, because it doesn't work that way. Okay? The way it works is this. Do not deflate your fellow conservative Republican in California from going out and voting. Sure, if you want to measure it the way they're asking us to measure it, don't fall into their narrative trap. So my story is, Kurt, it ain't over until November 7th, 4th, whatever date.
So is that a long way of saying that we need to get our butts out to vote because they're not showing up yet?
That's one way. It's also another way of saying, everyone out there, shut the hell up. Encourage somebody to get out there and vote. If I see another bloody post by people, tell me, oh my, well, what are we going to do? Look what the statistics are. Every day we started at day one. Go out there and do something about it. The three of us are out in the streets every day because we're doing something about it. It's really easy to sit back there, get people out to vote, contribute to the email campaign. We're about to send out the 500,000 Los Angeles Republicans. All right? Do something. You could contribute. You could do something. To sit there and simply say, oh my God, look at the statistics where we're at. Get your butt out to vote. But more importantly, get someone else's butt out to vote. We have the statistics. Back to you.
Hey, you know, what I really want to point out to these guys is that there were a lot of Democrats that voted to institute this independent commission back in 2008, 2010. So even though there's an independent commission.
Right. It's being
Good point.
by Paul Mitchell.
All right.
Don't listen to his statistics. Go for it.
All right, Scott. California Republicans have launched a voter identification ballot push, and they need 875,000 signatures by the deadline. Tell us about that.
So what's amazing is that they've known that this is going to come out. They were waiting for the title and summary out of the AG's office. And so they were really prepared. I mean, they went as far as to get all these volunteers to hand-addressed envelopes because people are more likely to open a hand-addressed envelope rather than a machine-addressed envelope. And to the point where they had, I don't know, I think it was close to 5 million of these envelopes ready to go. So when they finally did publish it, they sent these things out. And so we're flooding the market. We have 6 months to qualify it, but if we want to qualify for November, we got to get it sooner than that. I think our deadline is going to be March, which is a little less than 6 months. But what we need to do is, well, what do we need on this thing? We need 1 million
875,000 valid signatures.
But
Yeah,
hold
so
on.
you're really going to go after about 1,200,000, 1,300,000 actual signatures to make sure you get your 875,000 valid ones. So a lot of those have come out in the mail on the voter ID.
They're
And
already a
in fact,
quarter
you
of a
can,
million in, already 250,000 in, which is amazing. Petitions are making good progress.
and it's only been like 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks. That's pretty fast to have half a million, a quarter million in so far. So you can go to Reform California. There's information on voter ID. It'll take you to the voter ID website. You can download a petition, follow the instructions, sign it, and mail it in. Get your neighbors to sign it. It's a good deal. And the politicians know that if this makes the ballot, it's going to pass.
It's going to
Even
pass.
Democrats. Yeah, I mean, this is like an 80-20 type of a deal. And this isn't going to be one of these things where, we're just not going to fund it and listen to it. Nah, they're going to be forced to do it. And unfortunately, it didn't go onto the ballot this November, which would have been nice, but it'll go on next November. So it won't take effect until 2028.
It wouldn't.
Or I was to
No,
say there are some off-year elections in like City of LA and some other
there is
places that'll
there
take
really is
effect.
no election this November to go on the ballot with. I want to jump in here real quick and say the three initiatives again, and everybody is taking our lead, Carl DeMaio included, not from what we did in the recall, and this isn't to be a pop-off, 8.5 by 11. For Save Prop 13, which you see at the bottom of the screen, for the New School Choice Initiative, the CEO Act, they're coming out in 8.5 by 11, which means that's letter-sized paper. For those of you who go, what the hell is he talking about? You can go to the website and print them out. Get involved. Kurt,
Yeah, you don't have to have a special printer. You don't have to print both sides. It's easy print, and the instructions are very clear on the website.
All right, Scott, in addition to being accused of mortgage fraud, allegedly, Senator Adam Schiff from California, according to a Democrat whistleblower who told the FBI that Schiff okayed leaking classified intel to hurt Trump. That's a crime, isn't it, Scott? Leaking classified information?
Well, he authorized the leak by the committee staff. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this guy should be in jail. Let's throw the Espionage Act at him. He should be guilty and thrown in jail, and then he could try and get his mortgage as a primary resident in 2 states again. Oh, wait a minute, that's illegal too.
That's not the only Democrat crime. House Democrats and the communist Los Angeles mayor Karen Bass are planning to launch a, quote, master ICE tracker app to dox ICE agents defending America. And attorney Pam Bondi isn't too happy about that. It's time to prosecute these people, Scott, who are obstructing the work of ICE.
Well, like I have been saying on my X feed this week, is that, and I'm going to put it on here, Newsom's coming out and saying, deploying troops into our cities with no justification. This is Newsom's own words. No justification, grounded in reality, no oversight, no accountability, no respect for state sovereignty. I'm amazed at how states have found there is a 10th Amendment to the Constitution, which they've ignored before this when Democrats were in charge. And no respect for state sovereignty is a direct assault on the rule of law. It's kind of like Newsom wouldn't know the rule of law if it hit him in the side of the head. He does whatever the heck he wants to do. But these things that he's saying are exactly what, in this case, Francis Wilkinson Pickens. He was the 1860 governor of South Carolina, the first state to secede, and firing on Fort Sumter, signaling the first military engagement of the Civil War. Jefferson Davis, 1862, president of the slave-holding states, otherwise known as the Confederacy. Lincoln has no respect for state sovereignty. I mean, that's exactly what Newsom's saying. Trump has no respect for state sovereignty. This guy is an anti-U.S., you may as well say it, the Democrat Party. They were for slavery. They were for Jim Crow. They were for segregation. And now they're anti-Trump, and they want to they want to nullify laws that they don't agree with, which is practically all of them.
Gentlemen, I'm going to wrap here. I think it's about time for the end here, and I want to end on this, if you don't mind, even if you do. Next week, more than just having Dinesh D'Souza on, the idea is we need lots of people to come in. We need lots of people to watch and spread the show next week. We're doing this because Dinesh has a great story and a fantastic documentary. He's one of the best filmmakers of our time.
And Mike, tell us the subject of the documentary so people can get
It is
excited
basically
about
on what has been happening in Hamas and Israel and what's been going on over there. And we'll be playing the trailer on it and let him talk about it. Okay.
Wonderful.
I see,
Yeah,
David, what
absolutely.
you're saying there. Indeed, we need to mass message 100%. And that's exactly what I'm perfect way to end the show. The idea next week, we have a gentleman who's got about 7 million followers, one of the best filmmakers of our time on. And we are putting him on next week to bring people in. You need to help us bring people into California Free Radio next week to remind them that there's an election going on. Like David just put in one of the comments, Gavin's hoping we forget. The petitions that you sign, the things that you do, the vote that you cast is the way to stand up against who the true king is, kings and queens and other people in our state legislature who think they're going to simply run us over because we aren't going to notice or know what the hell is going on. The Dragon's Prophecy, what's coming up next week, what Dinesh D'Souza's amazing film is about, could be well titled about California. And I got news for you. If you don't want to get eaten alive by the dragon, get your butt to the polls this weekend and vote. Get your butt to your computer and print out and mail in those petitions. Do something, because it's your damn state. And next week, California Free Radio is going to break the ceiling of viewership that we have, not only to show about the Dragon's Prophecy, but to make sure that that prophecy doesn't become one for California. Thank you, everybody, and good night.
Good night.